topic today, we're going to tackle stormwater. We're going to talk about a little bit about MS4 and just in general how you can apply Sedaru for some public works oriented tasks and work. But I think MS4 has been it's something that most folks are dealing with in one fashion or another. When you say, Kevin, we see it come up quite a bit, right?
Yeah, I mean, especially, if you're a municipality that's like managing, water and sewer, MS4 and stormwater, compliance maintenance is a huge one.
So we're going to jump into, how with Sedaru can help you actually do that in terms of how it's going to help you actually start managing maintenance of your stormwater system. So I think, Kevin, what I'm going to do, I'm going to hop into our Omni software here a little bit, and we're going to walk through, kind of some of the basics here on stormwater. Well, it's there for a second. Let's see if I can get it back here. And kind of talk about, approaching a couple different things. I want to first was going to talk about just stormwater inlets and catch basins, and how we can do some of that. And then I think you've got kind of some things queued up on a mobile side for us, right?
Yeah, so we'll take a look at that field data collection, what that means for someone who's actually out doing the inventory, doing the inspections, and all the things that can be collected out there for that.
Right. Okay, great. So one of the things, so what you're looking at here, right, I think for those of you that are familiar with Sedaru, you've seen this Omni interface, right? What you might not have seen before is you'll notice the tiles up here are configured around things other than water and sewer. And what we really have the ability to do within Sedaru is to configure these tiles around any type of asset that you want. And so it can specifically be stormwater, it could be streets, it could be street signs, it could be parks and rec, it could really be anything within there that you want to track. And so if I come over here to this little GIS tile, I'll turn on turn on layers for street signs and other things, right? So I can again have sort of any set of layers that I want to look at, any sets of data that I want, and I can kind of come in and turn those on and off. We specifically want to look at catch basins in here. So I have a tile devoted all to catch basins, right? So here's catch basins that have needed repair. Here's catch basins I've done in the last year. Here's ones that we're looking for that need to be edited within the GIS. Mm-hmm. So let me come in here and look at catch basins that have been done in the past year. And you notice I click on that tile and it's going to highlight them right on the map for me. And I'm going to be able to see the location of it. And then I can actually just use my mouse. I'm going to zoom right in and take a look specifically at some of these areas. And so as I zoom in, the map's going to easily update. One of the key ideas with Sedaru and how you use this is you really don't have to be a computer power user. You shouldn't have to be super advanced with technology to be able to do the basics of looking at some of these things. And so I'll come in, I'll just click on one of these catch basins, and I can see the information right here. Where is it located? When was it last cleaned? Who owns it? All of that sort of basic information popping up for me right within here, and being able to see the information around it. And so I can see the information from both the GIS and the inspection and have all of that exposed to me so that I can see the details of it. When it comes to assigning work to people to do it, you've got some different ways. Kevin's going to show you from a field perspective how I could just come in and do it from the field. But from an office perspective, if I wanted to come in and do it my own way in here, I can come in and just select a catch basin in here. So here's another catch basin. I could just hit the little man working sign here, assign it right to that person. Or more likely for something like this, you're going to say, hey, I want to go and I want to assign a whole group. I want to select a whole bunch of them and assign those to somebody to do. So here's a bunch of manholes. I don't care about them. I don't care about the actual pipes here either, but I do care about the basins. So I'll go ahead and I'll hit that little man working symbol. And now I can decide what I'm going to do. So I'm going to do a catch basin inspection. Who am I going to assign it to? And I can assign this to, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 people, whoever I want. I'll just pick one person. If this was like a customer focus driven thing, I could fill out some of that information. And I basically hit create task, and it's going to go ahead and generate a series of separate work orders for somebody to go ahead and do that inspection work. Do you think I did that justice, Kevin? Does that make sense? With that,
I do. Yeah, that looks cool. The one thing I was going to ask, below priority, I think there's additional ways you can like set up recurrence, right? Yeah, so there you go. So if we wanted to do this, maybe weekly, monthly, every 2 years, or however you want to do that, this really does a nice job putting that on a full maintenance schedule. So as we need to be compliant, check our inspections every year or however often we're required to do that, it makes it real easy.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, and that's kind of one of the things as you set up and develop these maintenance schedules, you don't want to necessarily be reinventing the wheel every year, every 5 years. So what we'll see is as folks set this up, set their recurrence intervals on things, and then it's able to just kind of churn along and to see it. All right, let's see here. So that's kind of the basics of scheduling work and doing that. Let me show you something here from a reporting perspective, right? So one of the things that's neat within Sedaru is you have these performance tiles across the top, and I can kind of quickly run reports from these. So if I take here, I'm looking at catch basin inspections that have been done within the past, that same tile we were looking at the map. If I drag that down into here, I can see exactly each day of the year how many catch basins have I inspected. And I can see here there's been 400 done this year. That's 200 more, or 268 to be exact, than the previous year, a 66% increase. So we have some basic metrics as you're trying to manage the work going forward to see exactly what's happening. And then I can come in, if I wanted to look at a smaller area, I can kind of zoom in and see that. And then whenever I want to actually pump out the detailed information of this, I can just hit create report, and it's going to automatically generate that report for me. So depending on what kind of actual compliance reporting you've got to produce, this will make it straightforward for you to be able to easily see that information and stick it into whatever report you need to generate the detail for you.
Yeah, that looks really cool. All right, so I am using my iPad here. This can run on a Windows device as well, whether you're using like a Windows tablet, Surface, laptop, or other. You have your iPad. We also have it on the iPhone. So for certain types of activities, it actually is pretty nice to just be able to pull out your phone, enter in the data there as well. But I'll show you the iPad. It has a nice map of the area, kind of maximizes that real estate for being able to see exactly where you're going, navigating to and from, and then making sure that you can easily enter in all those asset details as you're going through. All right, so view is pretty similar to what we saw within that Omni view where you have the different tiles up top. The difference here is each of the tiles is actually telling me how many work orders I have for a given asset type. So we have things like drainage structures, we have manholes, catch basins, but we also have like customer service requests, maybe for pothole repair or other. We have some street lights that require attention, traffic signs. So really, depending on who's logged in, I would have access to those key work orders that are assigned to me. So right now we can just focus on our drainage structures here. So it looks like we got 4 active ones. So you can see based on the date and time and where it was assigned here. So we have this structure here, and when I'm ready, I can just hit new.
Hey Kevin, question for you here. In here, if you go back there real quick.
Yeah.
I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pieces of information.
Yep.
How did we come up with those? Is that like what the limit is on catch basins, or?
No, that's a good question. So yeah, so these information screens are totally customizable. So depending on what type of information we wanted to have, I could show more or less depending on those attributes. So if we look at maybe catch basins as example, and I'll tap on one of those here, we can see a few more bits of information here. If I'm maybe looking at a storm manhole, I can click on that and maybe I just have a couple things. So it's super flexible, but yeah, just depending on the asset that you want to have, you can incorporate any number of attributes there.
Great.
Yeah. So, and then getting back to our work order here. So just depending on the details that were set. So in this case, we didn't have any additional notes or description here, but what we can do is go in and say, okay, well, based on these simple tiles, what I can actually do is have just an easy way to enter in my data. So got the pick list controls, so we can kind of go through and depending on what we're doing, we have any number of these asset attributes that we can go through. So whether or not it was cleared out, if we need follow up. So all of this.
I mean, one of the things that I always encourage folks to do too, from anything that has a compliance reporting component, is you need to make sure you're standardizing how you enter data. So make pretty good use of pick lists and
Right.
add people free-form typing information in here. And so within Sedaru, we try to make that really straightforward.
Yep, agreed.
For folks to be able to do.
Yeah, so then any number of items here, whether there was issues found, work completed, so you can do some free-form text entry. You have photos and comments, so really it's up to the user on how you want to standardize on your data and then have an easy form to fill out while you're doing it. So I'm going to mark this task as complete, and then I can move on to my next asset here.